Hello and welcome to the 5 most important moves that you need to master as a beginner with a kettlebell. Let's start off with the one that everyone knows, the swing. The kettlebell swing is effectively a ballistic hinge. That means a hinge with speed. Remember, this is not a squat, it's a hinge. You should be using your posterior chain. That means your lats, your glutes and your hamstrings predominantly to help you load the muscle effectively and explode out of that bottom position using hip extension, not arching your back to the standing position. Finally, in that top position of the swing, you should have packed shoulders, a tight core, squeezed quads and clenched glutes. Think about trying to make your glutes eat your shorts. I don't want to see any hollow backs and anyone driving their hips through the position. This should be like a standing plank. So this is my number 1 for moves you need to master with a kettlebell. The second most important movement for you to master is the single hand swing. Now the difference from the swing to the single hand swing is quite large because of the core recruitment required in order to maintain symmetry in your posture as you're swinging a weight on one side of your body and not the other. The other reason why this is so important is because things like the clean and the snatch require you to have a good understanding of how to maintain a packed down shoulder or a centrated shoulder joint on one side as you go through a clean or a swing movement to give that weight enough power that it just travels up to your shoulder or to the overhead position without you having to pull it with your arm, but instead having given it enough power from your hips and keeping that arm tucked in the right place means that that weight's going to travel up to the finished position perfectly. The third most important movement for you to master is the goblet squat. The way that I see this done most often is people hold the kettlebell out away from them instead of using their lats by pulling that kettlebell in towards them and creating a strong frame for you to secure that kettlebell with. We need your torso to be strong, packed down, a strong, tight core, lots of tension when you start squatting with a kettlebell. So think about grabbing the horns of that kettlebell and pulling it through your chest and your shoulders down away from your ears before you start squatting. If you want more support and more detail on this, click the squat video. The fourth most important movement for you to gain mastery of as a beginner with kettlebells is the deadlift. And a lovely progression of this move is the single hand deadlift. It's awesome because it teaches hip flexion and a bit of knee flexion without any of that ballistic movement. So you're going to learn a little bit of how to engage your glutes and hamstrings through hip flexion and a little bit of how to engage your quads through knee flexion without having that kettlebell swinging or traveling with speed. Furthermore, it's a wonderful way to teach you how to use your lats or keep your lats connected to you during hip extension because this crosses over to the snatch really well. Make sure that the handle is cutting your shoes in half so that it's inside of your posture when you grab it. Don't let it travel away from you. And finally, as you're on the descend of that exercise, make sure that your forearms stay connected to your thighs. That's how you keep your lats in tension. The fifth and final exercise that you should be gaining mastery of as a beginner with a kettlebell is the clean and press. Now it's an awesome full body movement, but it's so important for so many beginners to understand how to rack the kettlebell without it slamming against their wrist. Also is the pressing position. So many people who now own kettlebells have come across from traditional lifts in bodybuilding where we press from this sort of a position, whereas kettlebell pressing happens from here. Your elbow and your hip stacked on top of each other, pressing straight up towards the ceiling without letting your elbow escape out to the side too much. The clean and press, a really important movement that we can break down into learning the clean and learning the press. But with these 5 moves, you can gain mastery over the kettlebell that will help you progress into more difficult or more complex movements with a really good foundation. And with these 5 movements, you can build out a really good workout with nothing else. I hope that was useful. If it was, hit the like and subscribe button, Share this with someone else because it costs you nothing and helps me a ton. And leave a comment below for what you want to see next. See you at the next one.